So I got this free panel from Starling Space at NobCon. They were giving them out as sort of business cards. And I figured I would use it today to make an expander for my Pico System 3. Just to have some useful things, and instead of using them as patch pals, which I normally do, things like this, right, that just hang on cables, I decided to make a little utility panel that I can either have just sitting next to the system standalone or even rack it up. I'm thinking about using it on the backside like this, where there's nothing written. Basically, I thought about what kind of things I need, and I like to have 2 gate to trigger converters, since I have 2 envelope generators and 2 low-pass filters. It'd be nice to have 3 attenuators, because the system could definitely use more attenuators, and a crossfader, because I have a dual potentiometer that can be used to make a really simple passive crossfader, and that would be interesting to have and integrate into the Pico system patches that I make. The only thing I need to do to the panel is drill 4 more holes here, not to waste any space and get more functionality out of this little panel. So I just got to drill these 4 little holes here, and then simply plug in 4 pots and 13 jacks. And I just got a batch of jacks from Thonk, so 13 of them are going to get used right here. Then I'm going to make a cool drone patch with the Pico System 3 to take advantage of this little panel. Okay, so welcome to Pico Patches number 4. The drone patch and the expander panel. Okay, let's get on to drilling. So here basically it's a dual pot that we're going to use as a crossfader. So the wipers will get tied together because they will be the output, the common output. So that's going to go to the output. So now these are basically 2 pots, right? And one of them is going to be an attenuator one way, and the other will be an attenuator the other way. That way you can crossfade. As you attenuate one, you de-attenuate the other. You open up the other. Obviously, the grounds will have to be opposite each other. So that's another connection that we can make with the pot outside of the panel. So I'm going to prepare a little wire here for that. Strip it, tin it, and solder it. So stripped it. Tin it, and now I will also tin the lugs on the pot itself. Pull the bottom one down here and the top one opposite, and now I can just lightly touch it like that and it's already connected. And now put it where it needs to go and reflow that solder, and now a connection is made. I can clip off So that's going to be ground, right? So it doesn't even matter if it touches the panel because the panel is grounded. I've already measured and the panel is all grounded. So that's going to save me a lot of connections. I'm not going to have to connect any of the grounds. I only need to connect the tips from each jack. And the only ground I need to connect is for the pots themselves. Here, the way I did that is since the pot body is grounded, and I did measure that, and it is, I just needed to fold up the ground leg into the pot body itself and solder it right on there. So these two pots right here are, the right side is grounded by just folding down the leg and soldering it to its own body, right? So this is going to be actually fairly simple. For the gate to trigger converters, I want to make them work either way, so I'm going to forego the diode. I don't think they need the diode, so it's basically going to be a capacitor from one tip to the other, and I'll test it and see if it works. If it works fine, I'll leave the diode out. If not, I'll put the diode back in. But I'm pretty sure just the capacitors will work. This is going to be the crossfader, this is one attenuator, and these are two more attenuators. So it's going to be a very useful little addition to the Pico System 3. Continue with the crossfader here. So now the middle lug, the combined wiper, is already combined. The grounds are already cross-connected here. And now I need to solder on some wires that are going to go to inputs, right? So I'm going to make them a little bit long, and then I'll cut them to size once the pot is on the panel. So again, strip wire, just one side of it for now. Tin them. There's one, let's tin the other. And now let's tin the pot plugs themselves. Here's one, and here's the other. And now I can just solder these right on there. There's one. The other. Check, make sure they're solidly soldered on. I'm not going to just snap off. And here is the prepared pot for the crossfader. It's just a basic passive crossfader, which you can do with one of these dual pots, right? This is a 100K pot, which is fine value for a crossfader. It could have been 10, anything between 10 and even 500, I guess would have worked fine. Now, let's put this back on here. And now I just need to solder each of these legs to one of the inputs and the middle one to the output. Let's secure it on there with its nut. I use the banner nuts to kind of mark this is the output and these are going to be the two inputs for the crossfader. This is the attenuator and these are the two gate to trigger converters. So this just needs to go here, tin it, and solder it on. And now this one goes all the way down here. So again, strip it, tin it, tin the jack lug too, and then I can just hold this in place and reflow that solder, and there it is, solidly connected, not going to move. Again, I don't need to do any of the grounding because it's all done by the panel itself. That's going to save me a lot of wiring. So now let's move on to this attenuator over here. And again, an attenuator basically is going to take one side is going to be ground, the other side is going to be our input, and the output is the wiper over here. Let's go into time lapse.
Okay, I found a couple of 22 nanofarad capacitors.
I think these will work for the gate to trigger converters. Solder them on and try it. If it doesn't work, we can very easily replace them with other values. Okay, I think I'm done unless I made any mistakes, which we'll find out soon enough when I try it out. But here it is, our passive utility panel for the Pico System 3. with 3 passive attenuators, 1, 2, 3, a crossfader with its 2 inputs and 1 output, and 2 gate to trigger converters right here. Let's put on some knobs. Let's make a little stand for this with vector rails. I have a little bit here that I can cut to size. I cut it right here. Again, here we'll have a nice little stand for this thing so it doesn't need to go on a rack.
Okay, here we are. I made a patch to test my expander module, and I've used my Tendrils, these little right angle cables that came in from Australia yesterday. And guess what? They're perfect for the Pico system. In fact, I think they should come standard. Erica Synths and Tendrils should get in touch, because not only is the color coding great to be able to locate yourself in a patch, to be able to follow what's happening, but these tiny, skinny, right-angled cables are perfect for such a dense system, because instead of having that bundle of cables over here blocking your access to the controls, you have much better access to the controls on the Pico System 3 by using these. So I'm really happy to have my Tendrils here now to use with the Pico system. So let me explain the patch. Starting with the oscillators, I have the pulse output of one and the shape output of the other, each going into one of the low pass gates. Each low pass gate is then going into one of my output mixers, and each output mixer is going into one side of a stereo input in my audio interface. So this is a stereo patch. The filters, the low pass gates as filters, are being simultaneously controlled by envelope generator number 1. However, it's going through an attenuator first. So attenuator number 3 here on my expander is actually controlling the intensity of this envelope generator before it goes into the 2 low pass gates. So from the output of the attenuator, it goes into a multiple, and from the multiple to the CV inputs of both low-pass gates. The pulse output from the mod module is what's triggering the envelope generator that's controlling the low-pass gates. But it's going through one of my gate-to-trigger converters. They both work, I tested them, but I'm only using one on this patch. And this allows me to have much more control over my filter envelope, because the envelope generator is a tax sustain release. And as you can see, the pulse output from the mod module is kind of long. It's kind of a long pulse. So this would be the minimum duration for the envelope of the filter if I were not using my gate to trigger converter. So this was a really good thing to do. Now this side over here I'm using for modulation. So basically I have the envelope generator number 2 acting as an LFO in loop mode. Its output is going into one side of my crossfader, and the sample and hold from the mod module is going into the other side of my crossfader here. And the output of the crossfader then goes into my first attenuator right here. And that allows me to control the intensity of whichever combination of modulation sources I'm sending to my oscillators. The output of the attenuator then gets split by this little star over here, and it goes into both the pulse width control of oscillator 1 and the shape control of oscillator 2. So I'm modulating pulse width and shape with either or both of the sample and hold and envelope 2 as an LFO. Both oscillators are tuned about a fifth from each other, and I'm controlling them simultaneously by sending a high voltage here from my sequencer. The sequencer is not moving, it's just putting out a high voltage from step 2 into my attenuator number 2 on the expander here. And that is getting split again and going into the 1 volt per octave input of both oscillators. So this is something that's really nice to have, wide frequency control by knob, and I'm using it for both oscillators at once. So right now this expander makes this a much more hands-on, performative sort of a system, and it was really simple to make, and it's passive, and anyone can do the same. In fact, it's a great first DIY project if you've never done any DIY before. This is one of the things that I really like about the Erica Synths Pico System 3 is that it's a kind of a gateway to DIY. Like if you don't do DIY and you get this, it'll push you both from the fact that you can solder your own preset cards and the fact that you can expand it with little passive circuits that you create either as little standalone doodads or a panel like this. So let's hear what the patch sounds like. So I'm going to turn up both volumes here for left and right. And right now we're hearing that sample and hold affecting the shape and the pulse. I'm going to bring up a little bit of the envelope. There it goes. Now I can modulate the pitches of the oscillators. Just make that envelope snappier. Let's make it go faster. There's that sample and hold affecting the modulatable parameters of the VCOs. Let's crossfade into the LFO. Let's make that LFO faster by turning down both attack and decay on envelope 2. Attenuate the amount. Bring it back to sample and hold. Make it more extreme again. Bring down the pitch. Bring down the envelope amount for the filter. And that's it. Those are our basic modulatable parameters here. Just going to play around with it for a little while. That's it for now. Hope you liked the video. If you did, as usual, I ask you to hit like, subscribe, comment below, join my Patreon, and I'll see you soon and stay noisy.